Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Tiffany Hunter, energy healer in the United States. Welcome to the Life Made Easier podcast. You're going to find ancient wisdom with a modern approach here. In each episode, we're sharing useful information from the world of energy healing. You get to develop and enhance your energy intelligence to make your life easier in simple and practical ways.
And I'm Dr. Karen Janes. I'm a psychologist and energy healer in the UK. Meditation can mean many different things. So for today's episode, we're going to share with you some of our ideas about how we understand meditation and why we find it useful, and also how it will connect up with the world of energy.
Yes. It's an important place for us to start because the truth is there are hundreds of meditation techniques out there with almost as many goals for each of those types of meditation. So we're wanting to be explicit that the one that we're focused on today, the meditation style that we teach, is really designed to help you stay balanced during the day, to be less reactive, to have greater peace, to be more connected to who you are, and really just be able to do that in a way that doesn't add more burden to your schedule.
Yeah, I think we both come from a place where I think I can speak for you, Tiffany, here, where we're kind of like try to take quite a down to earth approach to meditation, a practical, how is this useful for me? And we're also really mindful of how difficult it can be to develop a practice like meditation. And it can sound really simple. Well, you just, take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes a day. And who doesn't have time for that? And still, we know that it can be a really hard thing for people to start a practice and to sustain a practice. So I think in that very practical vein, our advice would really be keep it short. And I don't really believe, I know what your views are on this, Tiffany, but that, doing an hour's meditation a day or several hours meditation a day is, aside from being for most people quite unrealistic, is just not that, it's not important to do it for that long. It's kind of can end up going almost beyond helpful, and really just keeping it short and starting super short. So even just a couple of minutes at a time can be enough to get you started, but maybe aiming for 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes if you have the time, allowing yourself to do different amounts of time each day. So it doesn't, if some days all you can manage is 5 minutes, go with that. If some days you have a bit more time and can do 20, great. And trying to, kind of just you go with that, so we don't have to sort of fight against that kind of idea in our heads of I've got to do it this way. We are going to talk more another time, I think, about some of the things about meditation that are, might be really useful for you to know. But as Tiffany said, we really want to kind of today cover the how are we thinking about it. It's not just about stopping thinking or sitting still. You don't need a guru, you don't need a special mantra. I mean, if those things really speak to you and work for you, great. It's not that they're wrong, but I think thinking that we need those things can sometimes really put us off.
Yeah, and we'll get into specifics and guide you through some meditation techniques as we continue, but both Karen and I have had the really sad experience of people in our practice. I think we all know that meditation is good for us, right? Like we've all been exposed to the means on social media and the research that says meditation does all these positive things for our health and our well-being. And people come to the practice and with great earnestness and real commitment and excitement to something that sounds so simple. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to relax, or I'm going to sit down and I'm going to calm my mind. And to watch that enthusiasm erode into shame and frustration is really what we're trying to address here. Trying to figure out how to meditate in a way that's just as effective at what we're trying to do, right? Not effective at all the types of meditation styles and intentions, but the meditation that is just as effective at helping you get through the day in a balanced way and helps the body and the mind and the energy work together so that you can get all of those health benefits. So with that said, that's a great segue to actually define what we think meditation is doing. And we are getting people to match the energy vibration of their mind to the energy vibration of their bodies. And when that happens, the energy, just the energetic part of us, the energy anatomy part of us, is able to follow along and flow naturally. Once that's done, the body can relax. So if you think about a model that you may have heard us talk about before of humans being made of three aspects, a mind, a body, and energy, kind of a Venn diagram, if you will, what we're really talking about is an enlarged, inflamed mind, which is how most of us spend our day, right? That inflamed mind creates the monkey mind, it creates the chatter, it creates the stress, it creates all kinds of problems, which then has consequences in our blood pressure and our lack of sleep and everything. And when that inflamed mind is able to be remedied and come back down, that Venn diagram of three parts of ourselves can come back into balance. When we connect to the body, then we're no longer cut off from ourselves, and then that can relax. And when we go through a meditation technique that connects the frequency of those two so they're together, then the energetic part of us in the Venn diagram is able to flow naturally and open out and not be restricted. And what's really lovely in those moments is, with a little bit of practice, you can actually feel it click in. You can actually feel those parts of us go, jink, when everything relaxes.
You remind me that I many years ago, back in the days when I had a 9 to 5 job and lived and worked in a city, unlike now where I'm in the, sticks. I used
Yes, you are.
I used to, I kind of had a practice where I would usually meditate when I got home from work. And I found it a really nice kind of segue into my evening. And there would always be this kind of, and it varied how long it took, but a period of time at the beginning where my mind just felt kind of busy and replaying stuff from the day and maybe thinking about what have I got to get done this evening, or, all of that just busy kind of background noise. And then at some point there was that sense of just almost like really dropping into myself and something kind of clicking, and a sort of a collective sigh throughout my whole body that was kind of like, oh, okay, something feels better now. And I love the way you describe that, of an inflamed mind, because we know when a part of our body is inflamed, when often it hurts or it feels uncomfortable, that's quite distracting. Then you find yourself, you keep thinking about that. It's like pain or discomfort draws our attention. And so when that inflammation can be reduced, everything else can kind of shift and settle around it and feel more comfortable. And even if we didn't have words for what you're describing about the energy being able to flow through our body, I think that is what's happening. And with a little bit of practice and just having that information that is what's gonna happen, could help you could be part of how you can then connect in a bit more with the kind of energy part of yourself, which is, we talk about these three separate parts, and they are kind of separate, but in a way that's a sort of tool to help us think about it, because our mind likes to compartmentalize things a bit. But obviously they're massively interconnected and, sort of relate to each other and are affected by the other. So I think that's such a lovely way of explaining it, that it's kind of like, oh, I've made my mind a bit smaller and a bit less shouty, and yeah.
You remind me, both Karen and I have done guided meditations, a series of guided meditations, and you can find them on the website, on the podcast website, if you're looking for it, for them. And each of them, there's more than one track, and there are different times. And I did one that's 3 minutes, a 3-minute meditation. And what I had in mind when I did that was what you described, Karen. In my mind, what I had is somebody driving home from work and sitting in their car for 3 minutes, because everybody can do 3 minutes, right? Sitting in the car doing a 3-minute meditation to help them transition into the home and what that's going to look like for them. Or equally, driving to work and sitting in their car and doing it there, or even going to the restroom and taking a moment to themselves. That there's a way that those 3 minutes can be life-changing. And so when I did, I did the 20 minutes, I did the 10 minutes, but I really wanted there to be those 3 minutes for the people to just have a sip. If all that was available to them was a sip, to keep them going throughout the day.
A meditation refreshment.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And maybe that it would be helpful for us to talk a little bit now about some of just a little bit about the practicalities.
Mhm.
And again, I think this is something we're going to delve a bit more deeply about. There's a lot of ideas about how we should meditate. But I think the basic advice that we would kind of give people is, as Tiffany says, you can do meditation in the bathroom, in the car, in many different places. And whilst it's certainly helpful for it to be quiet, it's harder to meditate when there's a lot of noise around you. Although with practice, not completely impossible, but some degree of privacy, or a little bit of space for yourself is mostly helpful. And it is easier, I think, if it's quieter and there's not so many noises that we have to try and tune out or just notice and let kind of happen around us. So a quietish place is good. Being comfortable, I think that's like I'm not saying I have rules for meditation, but if I had rules, that would be my number one. I think be
Mm.
comfortable, find a way to sit, and ideally sit. You can lay down to meditate, you're more likely to fall asleep. And I do think there is because of the kind of meditation we're talking about, which we'll say a little bit more about the kind of how we see it in a moment. But for this sort of more practical bit, I think being upright is helpful. A lot of us are very conditioned that I lay down and then I'm going to go to sleep. So because we're wanting to kind of keep some degree of alertness, I think being vertical is helpful. Feeling
It can be
supported.
sitting, yeah, it can be sitting in a chair though. It
Yeah,
doesn't have to be sitting
absolutely.
cross-legged. It can be sitting in a chair with back support.
Yeah, against a wall. I mean, you could sit on your bed. It
Hmm.
doesn't have to be, you can have your legs out in front of you. I mean, if you want to sit in the more traditional, what we might think of as the more traditional cross-legged position, great, if that's comfortable for you. But if that really isn't very comfortable for you, then, that's just going to be very distracting. And again, will cause discomfort in your body. So then it's very hard for our minds to move away from that.
Yeah, and equally with I mean, the crossing, if you want to be crossed, you can do it at the ankle or the knees, it doesn't matter. And if you're looking for a place to put your hands, you might consider just resting them gently on your thighs, or in your lap, with palms face down and fingers relaxed. Or if you want a more traditional position, you can take your right hand, palm up, place it in your lap, and then take your left hand and put it on top of your right hand, also palm up. These are both traditional positions, but really, as Karen said, the closest thing we're ever going to get to a rule about meditating is to be comfortable.
Yeah, and I think what Tiffany was saying about the hand positions, I mean, in if you look in yoga, there's a whole, you can look at millions of different ways that you can hold your hands, and there's all sorts of ideas about how that might impact the flow of energy. And I think, unless you're a real yogi, or have been doing a lot of meditation and want to just do a bit of experimentation and play around with that, in which case, go for it, enjoy that. I think over worrying about how should I hold my hands and what's that gonna do or not do or whatever is probably just unnecessarily complicating it. And I think, as with most things in life, the more we complicate things, often the harder it is to actually do the thing, because we're
Mhm.
we're kind of putting more and more blocks in our way. If we kind of keep it really simple, we're probably more likely to do it. If I have to wear special clothes and have a special cushion and, all these kind of things, and I have to have the incense burning and I have to have the right music playing, that's a lot to have to set up each time. And absolutely, if you have the time and you want to do those things and they help you focus, enjoy them, but don't let those be your part of your reason or what makes it harder to get round to doing it. It's doing some of it, which is always going to be more helpful.
Yeah, and you can always do both in the same way that you wipe down the kitchen counters frequently and quickly, and you occasionally deep clean your oven, right? You can use the kind of meditation that we're talking about to get through the day, get through the week, make things a little bit easier. But at the same time, explore the possibility of sitting down for a longer, more complicated meditation as more of an event later when you've got more time. They
Yeah.
both serve different purposes.
Yeah, and the only other thing I can think of to say about actually maybe there's two things, because I'm that's the kind of person I am. Um, the one is about closing your eyes. So closing your eyes can be really helpful. There is some evidence to suggest that just closing our eyes does change our brain waves, but also it tends to help us focus inwards a bit more and kind of withdraw a bit from we tend to be quite visually dominated as humans and in our society. So closing our eyes tends to just help us turn a little bit more towards our inward experience and also allow our other senses to step in a bit more. So listening to sounds can be particularly useful for meditation. And also the more sensory experience of being in your body can be really helpful. But if you're somewhere that you don't feel entirely comfortable closing your eyes, or even if you're, at home in private in a quiet room and it feels hard for you for whatever reason to close your eyes, you might find just kind of lowering your gaze and letting your gaze just really softly settle on one thing can be helpful, because otherwise what we can get into is kind of like, looking around the room or being distracted by our environment. So that kind of either closing your eyes or lowering your gaze, I think, can help you to focus. And the only other thing I can think of to say about that part is about sort of the sitting still part. People often come to when I've done meditation classes and things in the past, and kind of like, oh, I can't, I have trouble sitting still. Or sometimes people might say, well, I can't do meditation because I'm terrible at sitting still. And alongside what we were talking about in terms of feeling comfortable, it's okay to fidget. If something starts to itch, scratch it. If you get cramp, move your leg. If your foot goes to sleep, wiggle your toes. It's all those physical sensations. I think with practice we can get better at kind of tuning some of them out. But if there is discomfort in our bodies, we just need to move. And a bit like I was saying earlier, when I used to have my regular time, kind of when I came in from work, meditation practice, because I think I was coming from a busy, hectic day usually, there would be I would be more fidgety at the beginning and then gradually be able to sit in a way that was quieter and more still. And then I think we can get kind of over focused on one aspect of the meditation rather than just allowing ourselves to be for a little bit. Sometimes I think of it, it's almost like emptying your recycling bin on your computer, like you have to like clean out the cache or
Yeah.
before you can then the processes are then working in a smoother way. It's like I just have to download all the detritus of the day, or maybe not if you meditate first thing in the morning, but just that might be the waking up part. But sort of let that download happen, and then you can find the quieter, smoother, more flowing sensation in your body.
Yeah, I like what you say about how we do with practice get better.
Hmm.
What you make me think of is we get we get better because the meditation is working and we have a calmer state. We don't get better by bullying our body into not moving or not being itchy. That doesn't make us better.
Yeah, 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 definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so that's what we're suggesting you can try out physically. So here's the big question that everybody wants to know. What in the world am I supposed to do with my brain? What am I supposed to do with my mind? What am I supposed to be thinking about? And I think we would say that before you even start thinking about your thoughts, start thinking about your body and using your mind to settle your body. And the best way that we have found to do that is to feel gravity. And gravity is really gosh, gravity is your friend all day long because gravity is pulling on you all day long, right? And so any muscle tension that we have is us fighting gravity. So even just listening to me now talking, if you feel your shoulders and you allow your shoulders to yield to the pull of gravity. For people watching video, they'll see Karen's adjusting her posture.
I'm just
um,
stretching out my shoulders and
Reaching out your shoulders. Yeah, right. As soon as, and this is it. As soon as you start thinking about the, like, okay, gravity is really helping me. And once I pay attention to it, you kind of automatically shift your shoulders and allow them to slide down, have the shoulders slide down our backs, right? And that is the same for any tension in your face. That's the same for any tension in your belly if you've stopped breathing. And so to start getting the mind to settle, use it to help the body relax. And gravity is a really great, being aware of gravity and being aware where you're fighting gravity and where you can yield to gravity is a great place to start with that.
I think it also, for me, starting to notice that pull of gravity and allowing my body to go more with it rather than kind of against it, also quite often affects my breathing. So,
Mm.
or, it might make me want to take a deep sighing breath. If you ever watch a baby laying kind of on its back, sort of just resting, they don't actually breathe in a very regular way. They'll do a kind of a big inhale and a kind of a sigh out, and then the breathing might be more shallow for a bit. And they might have periods of time where it is more of a regular rhythm, but there will be those kind of sighing, releasing breaths. And sometimes when we become more aware of tension in our body, the body will naturally kind of do a big sigh, which can really help us release tension and stuff that we're kind of holding on to in that way. And you may find as you go through that process, you then want to shift your position a bit because what you thought was comfortable when you first sat down has now kind of changed a little bit, and you're kind of like, oh, now I can get a bit more into the back of my chair or against the wall, or I can sit up a little bit straighter because my spine feels a bit easier, or whatever it might be. So I think at points there it can be useful actively to rearrange yourself a little bit, and that could be a tiny, very subtle movement, or it could be a more obvious something that someone would really notice if they were watching you. But either way, it's sort of gradually, incrementally letting both your body and your mind go through these sort of phases of adjusting and relaxing and dropping down a little bit, to which will then conversely help your mind be focused a bit more. And that's where for the kind of meditation we do, Tiffany mentioned the hundreds of meditation techniques at the beginning, and a lot of that is about where do you sit your attention. Are you listening to music playing, or someone's voice telling you to visualize things, or the sounds around you in the room? And are you repeating a mantra, a kind of repetitive phrase in your head, and that could be something like a positive affirmation, or for some people on a particular spiritual path, they might use a particular mantra which has some meaning or significance to them. We might be doing more of a body scan, going through, using our mind to like track through different parts of our body to check for tension and just check in with ourselves. There may be we're going to talk you through in a little bit, a couple of specific techniques that we find really helpful for getting ourselves a bit more balanced. So it's a lot of it is about where are you putting your attention. And in all honesty, I don't know that it matters that much where you put your attention. It's just trying to let it rest somewhere and maintain that. So you're
Yes.
not trying to do all those things.
Yes. Yes. I think you're right. Yeah. I often enjoy the experience of listening to what sounds I can hear in my environment as
Hmm.
something for my attention, because I find that there's the background noises that you hear, maybe people talking, maybe cars going by, and then with as I start to relax more, I can start to hear the things that have become white noise that I
Mm.
hadn't noticed before, and the effort of trying to listen helps my mind relax because it's busy doing something, but it's doing something that, again, remedies that inflammation. It's a soothing task rather than an inflaming task. Yeah. But I also know people that have used positive affirmations to do that. Sometimes a mantra, which we mentioned earlier, to do that. I would caution being a little careful of positive affirmations because I think by definition, an affirmation can be an emotionally loaded statement because we're usually choosing affirmations that indicate a lack in our lives that we want to bring to ourselves or a lack in ourselves that we're not happy with. So I would caution being careful with that, but that's definitely available.
I have an
Or
alternative
just
to the
ooh,
positive affirmations.
tell me.
Something I really like to do is, rather than a positive affirmation like I'm going to be more patient, or I love myself, or that kind of thing, is to choose that. Like if you feel you need more patience in your life, or you want to love yourself more, rather than repeating an affirmation, think about that quality. So, what does patience feel like? What does love feel like? And just really try and bring that feeling into your body, rather than repeating I must do more of this, or I am this, or trying to convince yourself of something which you're not really feeling you are yet. If I really try to think of what is calm in somebody else, what does it, those, moments which maybe aren't around very much right now, of being really calm and centered, what does that feel like? And can I just try and bring a little bit of that feeling into my body? And for some people, that might have a color or a texture that they associate, or a particular sensation. It doesn't really matter how you do that, but just or just, you could just simply repeat the word calm. I mean, that probably still is a little bit of like, I should be more calm. It's hard to, kind of get rid of that sort of connection. But I think just really thinking, or if you want more, just to use that example, calm in your life, where is somewhere that I feel most calm? And then can I imagine myself there? If if you're somebody who, very common meditation technique, if you're someone who likes to be on a beach, for example, if that would be a really relaxing place for you, rather than that I'm trying to be calm, have more of I'm really imagining I'm sitting on that beach and I can hear the waves and I can smell the salty air and I can feel the warm sand under me and the sun's gently warming my body. And so kind of imagining yourself somewhere, again, using all your senses, that will help you to feel the thing that you're wanting to feel more of.
So hopefully that gives you some idea of what to do with your body, what to do with your mind, and we're going to talk a little bit about what happens with the energy then. And really, there's not a suggestion for now do this with your energy the way there is with now do this with your feet. But just to talk about what's happening to the energy in this process. And the answer to that is that it flows freely. And when the energy, when we're disconnected from our bodies, when our mind is inflamed, both things that meditation will fix, the energy gets in our anatomy gets constricted. And when our energy is constricted, all kinds of negative things happen that we don't want, right? It's the beginning of blocks. It's the beginning of things getting depleted. And when energy starts to flow freely, wow, that is a surprisingly difficult thing to say. When the energy flows freely, then our self-healing kicks in. Then our intuition is able to download information, and all the things that are connected to our energy are able to come forward and help us. And so then what you have is much more of a balance between the three parts of us, and much more of a cohesive whole where the parts of us are connected and working well together.
I sometimes think of that flow of energy through our body as being a little bit like how we want our blood to flow through our body. And, I'm not a medical doctor, but I know that, if our blood is flowing too fast, that can cause problems. If our heart's pumping too fast, if it's going too slowly, that causes problems. If there are restrictions, constrictions along the way, that causes problems. So we want a nice balance, that whatever is right for us. And I think meditation can be a really helpful thing to just naturally put our bodies in a place where it can, there may be things that need more help from other techniques or from, other sort of health providers or whatever, but in terms of stuff that you can do for yourself, I think meditation can really help put you into a state where your body can work towards finding its own good balance, and also kind of in that sense, I guess, preventing, what you said about like sort of the problems that can be caused if we don't have that nice flow, and if we are too mind heavy with our inflamed minds that are so busy and crazy and running on full speed often a lot of the time, we can probably minimize some problems building up because we're doing so. In that sense, meditation can be a helpful practice and a sort of that kind of remedies some problems, but also a kind of preventative practice that may help to keep us. And, that's likely to show up in terms of just, I feel calmer. I'm coping with some of the challenges in my life a little bit easier, not getting so riled up by things that I know really are not that important. I'm sleeping better, those kind of things.
Yeah. Yeah. So we get sometimes asked, people will sometimes ask us, how do I know if I'm doing it right? Right? How do I know if am I meditating? And did I meditate? Am I meditating? And the answer to that is, I mean, the simple really answer to that is the effort to do it is the success, right? Trying to put these things into place is the meditation practice. It's not about how well you're able to do any of these things that we're talking about. It's the efforting of it that actually is helpful. And having said that, with practice, there's often a moment where you can feel it connect, where you can feel all those, where the energetic frequency of all three parts of you do connect. And it feels a little bit, to me, it always feels a little bit like a click or like a Lego place snapping into place. And everything then kind of clicks and feels like, oh, I've got it. And it's often associated with, which Karen described earlier, is the kind of exhale sigh, the outlet of breath, and then the next level of relaxation in my body that I can feel.
Yeah. And although I also want to caution what you said about the effort, which I think I often describe meditation as an art. It's the art of meditation is the just sitting down to do it as best you can. And there will be some days where your mind is busier and it feels harder, and other days, or maybe your body is more uncomfortable or you're more tired, and other days where it just that click Tiffany's describing, it's almost like all the parts of you are moving together better. But in that effort of doing it, it's also trying to find the knack of not trying too hard. So the effort is more in the kind of, I guess you might think of it almost like a surrender to gravity, and a surrender to
Yes.
like, that being so caught up in your thoughts, which is, arguably sounds quite simple, but it doesn't mean it's easy, and certainly not always easy.
No, simple and easy are very definitively not the same thing
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
at all. Okay, so as we mentioned, we've got some meditation tracks, some that we've walked, walk you through meditation techniques that you can find on our website. We thought we would do one of them here for you, so you can get a taste of it. But if you want the other ones, they're going to be pretty easy to find. And we call this the pendulum technique because we're going to visualize and imagine and feel a pendulum. So if you can, to the best of your ability, given how you are watching this, let's go through. I'm going to ask you, or invite you rather, to find a calm place to be, a place to sit, to do the things that we outlined before. Close your eyes if you can, lower your gaze if that's more appropriate. Find a place to sit where you can be comfortable for a few moments. And given the nature of this podcast, I will probably go a little bit faster than I might if we were doing this together in person. But I refer you to our website. So I'm going to assume that you've paused me and that you've done that. So after your next exhale, please take a nice deep breath at your own pace. And after you exhale again, I'm going to ask you to do that 3 more times at your own pace, to be mindful of exhaling fully and being mindful of filling up your belly before you fill up your chest, so that you're getting a full deep breath of your whole torso, not just the top of your lungs. And as you do that and you settle, we're going to come to gravity. So feeling gravity pull on you, feeling gravity pull on your shoulders, allowing your shoulders to slide down your back, allowing gravity to help you relax your tongue, your cheeks. Let your kneecaps move down towards your toes. Are you holding your breath? Are you using any muscles that are not required? Are you clenching your fingers? Are you clenching your calves? So starting at your feet, just gently work your way up to the top of your body and see if you can find any muscles that you can surrender to gravity. Any muscles that are working that just don't need to be, given the positioning that you're in. Anything in your legs, your lower back, torso, shoulders. Is your head in a position where your neck is taking most of the weight? Even your eyeballs and your scalp. Good. And now I'm going to ask you to visualize and feel that I've dropped a pendulum from the top of your head on the inside of your head, down through your skull, through your neck, through your torso, down your hips, down between your legs, if you're standing, and down to the ground, down past the ground if you're sitting. And it's got a heavy weight on the bottom. And that pendulum is moving, swinging, it's swaying, it's doing whatever pendulums do. But again, the top is in the middle of your head. The string of the pendulum, the rope of the pendulum, will come down through the inside of your body along your spine and out the bottom, with a weight on the bottom that creates movement. How long that rope is, how far away from you the pendulum is at the bottom, is entirely up to you. But just be here for a moment and feel the movement. And as you do that, notice if any tension has come back into your body. Have you started fighting gravity again? And allowing that gravity to help you and allowing that tension to release, bring your attention back to your pendulum. And to the best of your ability, bring that pendulum to a still point. Try to allow that pendulum to hang heavy and still. What I want you to be most careful of is that it's not leaning forward like you're on your tippy toes or leaning your head forward or all close to your eyeballs. Bring it back towards your spine. Away from your belly button, away from your eyeballs. And equally, if it's going to the left or to the right, just gently bring it to a still point at the center. Now you can hold this position for as long as you'd like. And again, how still your pendulum is not the success. The success is the attempt. It's the working with the pendulum. And moving from feeling your pendulum to coming back to your body. Has tension creeped back in again? And then you slowly release it. Has your pendulum start to sway again? You slowly try to make it calmer. As your mind wandered off to think about the laundry, you just bring it back to your pendulum. And you can be here and sit here for as long as comfortable for you. Well done.
That was lovely. You can just do the saying goodbye part because I'm... It really struck me listening to you do that although I kept my eyes open and I was kind of paying attention because, the purpose of me sitting here right now is not just to be drifting off in meditation, but even just listening to some of those suggestions made me want to readjust myself and made me, more able to just be aware of my body and then release places. I think there's nearly always places we're holding, and even just a kind of a few minutes drawing our attention to that. And that art of meditation, as you say, the goal is not to have a perfectly straight pendulum, but just to gently keep in touch with it and seeing if you can bring it to a stiller place than it was.
Stiller. Yep,
Stiller.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can't say it like you do. Stiller place.
Still a more still place. Okay, so I think we're probably ready to wrap up. As Tiffany said, that we do have other meditation stuff on the website. And you'll find the website details in the show notes. So do have a look at that. But there's a few things just to recap our what we've talked about today. Meditation really has many purposes, and the goal for the type of meditation we most frequently do and wanted to talk about, because there's tons of other stuff on different types of meditation already out there, is really about finding a place to focus your mind and to help you feel calmer and in a bit more control of yourself. And it really doesn't have to be cumbersome, 5, 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes at a time. Just start somewhere and build it up when you can. Try to approach it really casually, sit however's comfortable on the floor, on the chair. It's okay to fidget, and really try to resist that temptation to kind of bully yourself into something. Hopefully we've given you some ideas for a good place to start, and that lovely meditation that Tiffany talked you through. And do come and check out some of our others. And I'm sure we're going to be doing loads more podcast episodes about meditation because it's such a kind of a rich topic. Yeah. So Thank you very much for joining us today, and we hope you listen to some more of our episodes.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Hi, I'm Carol Smith, the producer of the Life Made Easier podcast. We hope today's episode gave you some meaningful tools and takeaways to help make your life feel a little lighter. You've reached the end of this episode, but not the end of the ways that you can support us. Please subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, follow us on social media, and check out our Patreon for extra content and ways you can go deeper with us. There's also a whole library of episodes waiting for you to help increase your energy intelligence. Take care, and we'll see you on the next Life Made Easier.